The inventors behind Empowered have a new patent you should know about. Welcome back to Techstination. I'm Fred Fishkin. Joining us are Seungah Jeong. Hi, Seungah.
Hello, nice to see you.
Great to see you. And John Salzinger. Hi, John.
Pleasure, pleasure, Fred.
Well, you've been granted a new audio patent. Give us the overview of what this is for. I'll let you, I guess, take turns here.
Certainly. So in August of this year, we were granted a patent for new audio device. It is a little bit outside of the scope of what we've worked on in the past. So I currently have 10 patents, mostly in the area of solar lighting, and John has how many again?
25.
Okay, so this is a little bit of a departure for us, but it was really inspired by just an everyday scenario. As we all know, personal digital assistants are everywhere now, in our homes, in our cars. You know, we might be wearing devices when we travel or when we work out. And it's very common to speak to our devices. However, we noticed upon viewing a user that the process can be frustrating if you're trying to establish a certain audio output, i.e., the volume. So I'm sure many of your users at home, if they have a device, they might be saying, "Hey Google, play level 10." Oops. Hey Google, no, make that level 7. Oops, that's not the right one. Hey Google, make it level 8. And it's an iterative process that can lead to some frustration, especially if the volume never matches the user's desired level. So viewing this, we thought simply, sorry, Google just heard me.
That's what
Um,
happens.
that's what
That's perfect.
happens. But we noticed that, well, we had the idea, hey, Google, turn off.
This is perfect.
They're listening, but um, we thought, wouldn't it be great if the volume could simply match the user's voice? And it was so intuitive, we thought, well, surely it must do this. And we searched and then we reached out to our patent attorney. And sure enough, we discovered this is a space that has not been patented. It does not currently exist. It's so intuitive, but nothing out there has covered this particular area. And so that's why we decided to embark on this journey. And we started the patent filing process in 2023. And again, in August of this year, it was finally granted.
So maybe you can describe for us exactly how this will work. Either one of you here.
Sure,
Sure.
happy to jump in a little bit more. So the patent is very broad because technology is always evolving, and so we don't know what mechanisms will be out there in the future. But there are a couple of basic components. So there's the user, so you or me, but also the user could be something artificial, right? So thinking again about the future, we wanted the patent to be as broad as possible. So the user is the one who generates the command, and the command can be anything. It could be simply match my voice. It could be something that you've come up with that then the learning process kind of understands to be the command. But it starts with the user and the sound output of the user. Hey, XYZ, match my voice. And then there's a process whereby that sound output is understood by the device. And the device could be anything again. It could be a wearable device, a computer, a speaker, whatever that virtual assistant is. And then there's a process by which that sound is converted into some sort of level. It could be sound wave level, sound decibel level, like again, we covered the broad gamut. And then that is returned through the device through a sound output that matches the command. We also broadened it so it could be lower or higher than the command. So I'll give you another example. I, as the user, could be sitting, in my living room, having drinks. The radio is on through my Google Assistant, and it's getting really loud. And so I'm trying to get the music actually to increase in volume. I can say, increase the volume higher than the sound of my voice. So it can be a relative command, but at the end of the day, we just wanted to create something very intuitive, sort of like John and I were talking about, like the touch screens, right? Instead of like fiddling with all these commands with the touch screen, it became very intuitive. What you wanted to do, you could express through the touch screen. So it's very similar. You can express volume, changes in volume at a very quick, intuitive rate by just associating it with the user and whatever commands that they come up with.
Very interesting. John, how do you take an idea, a concept, and start playing with it so that you can apply it and be granted a patent?
Yeah, so I mean, the key for this is, as most patents are born out of our own experiences and trying to resolve situations where maybe there's a frustration or something you do in your morning routine that just could be a little better every single day. So this patent makes the experience more natural and prevents sort of overly loud or too quiet responses and improves the experience of the user in many different environments. Um, we're not actually looking to build a company out of this patent. We're looking for strategic partners with tech companies, we'll call it, in a sort of broad-based sector. Smart speakers, home assistants, mobile devices, wearables, automotive systems, even hearing aids, where it's so important to be able to communicate, or smart appliances. But even as Seungah said, this can be input to a device, and then the speaker is listening. And so even in product development, which is very intimate for Seungah and I, this can work to train a product. This can work to develop an AI system. So this is extremely broad. And so how this is used is also as broad, equally as broad. But we think that this solves sort of problems with technology not being so intuitive, and makes it a lot more almost colloquial with sort of the future technology that's evolving extremely quickly.
So, envisioning how this could work, talking to a smart speaker, it gauges your level and will speak back to you at a similar level, that kind of thing. Are things like that not already out there?
So you could be driving in your car, and you could tell you could be on the phone and you could have a problem with your music. Now, it might automatically be setting the volume for your music when you're on your phone, but that doesn't always work for every situation. And as Seungah said, when you're listening to a smart device, volume 3, no, volume 4, or up a volume or down a volume, you actually don't know what that volume is, or even what that output is, if it's volume or something else, until you actually hear it. So this cuts all of the fat out of that. And you set the volume, you set the pressure, the sound waves, etc. You decide what it is. So you know what it is because you're the one inputting it. So the listening then mirrors what you're doing. Takes the guesswork out of it.
I guess one of the types of devices, and they're not always that smart, is the TV. Might there be a market there for this? That if I'm watching TV and somebody turns on the vent fan over the stove and I can't hear the TV anymore, that things can happen automatically, or
Well,
Absolutely.
mhm.
Yeah, I think as we were working on this patent over the course of several years, we kept coming up with more and more everyday instances of things that happen. So I know when I'm watching my TV and my heater in my house goes on, it's a very loud sound. And so all of a sudden, I can't hear the TV, but then trying to figure out like the adjustment of the volume, like it does really take some guess and check because we don't know, like, be it the TV, be it your digital assistant, we don't know what those levels are. What does level one equal? What does the button on your TV that's, 28 equal, right? These presets are not intuitive, and often I find they're set at a spacing that isn't what the desired output is for me as the user. And that's why we think there are so many applications and so many areas in which like sound comes at us also from the outside. Just this morning, John and I were talking about a case. So I'm a runner, and when I run, I have, music or something, in my earbuds. But sometimes there might be traffic conditions happening outside that I need to pay attention to. And if my music is too loud, I can't pay attention to what's going on. So through this, you can actually command the device to be cognizant of ambient noise. You as the user are saying, this is an important sound level output for me. So if you start to hear that the noise outside is louder than this level that I'm setting, then please adjust my sound. And so very quickly, as you're running, you can say to your watch, because that's normally how I hook up my sound, please adjust the sound so I can hear what's going on. So again, just the number of applications and the devices are very wide because, as you pointed out, Fred, it's unbelievable that there's no such technology right now to make these intuitive adjustments.
So some more examples, Fred, that are sort of very distinct, situational. Maybe you're in a bedroom and someone's next to you or close to you, and you want to know what time it is. Right now, if I ask Alexa what time it is, it's going to say 2 a.m. at any volume it's already preset at. But if I whispered, Alexa, what time is it? And then it says 2 a.m. I haven't woken anyone up, right? That's kind of the gist of it. But this can work with so many different situations. Someone who wants to, like an elderly user with a hearing aid, they might speak naturally at a quieter voice when asking a wearable assistant about medication reminders. The device outputs at a higher but appropriate level, and that's relative to their normal tone, ensuring they can hear clearly without straining. Or a business conference call. Someone speaks softly into a meeting room assistant while others are close by, and the device answers at a matching low level, which would maintain sort of that professional, non-disruptive atmosphere. There's so many different use cases where we are already using devices that come back to us with a volume that's preset, and it actually doesn't intuitively adapt to what your voice is. So if I'm speaking to you, Fred, if I came over to you at a party and I said, Fred, I want to tell you something about something, you wouldn't say, oh, what is the secret? I mean, that's what we're trying to do here, but with machines.
I
With
could say, tell me about that patent, John.
right. It's good. It's about to come out. Right. That's right.
So to take Seungah's example, there are apps that will let you adjust your headphones to hear the ambient sound with certain headphones kinds of thing. But you would have to get your phone out, or maybe it's controllable on the watch too, but you would have to go through a process of making the adjustment
And
on
that's also not your input, Fred. That's not you setting it through your output. So this gives you the control. You become the ambient sound.
So terrific. So you've announced this within the last few days, really. Tell us, have you gotten much in the way of response? Are you talking to companies already about incorporating this technology?
So we've created some initial materials. We were waiting for the patent to actually grant. And now we're at the stage where we're trying to share information about what it is that this patent covers and to reach out to companies that might have an interest because we definitely see this as a competitive advantage that they could market when discussing their technology, their products, etc. Because again, just like the touch screen sort of revolutionized the way we use our phones. And, today they're much more than just a phone as a listening and speaking device. I think because of that touch screen technology, we are seeing that this could really push the boundaries of what these devices are, these digital assistants can do, etc., if they can um, adapt to the user. And so we're just now embarking on that process of finding companies to speak to, getting the word out about this patent. And one other quick thing that I wanted to mention, machine learning is built into this patent as well. So it doesn't have to be, again, like an app, which again is not user focused, but where every command has to be specified. It really is a process by which you as the user, through your voice, through the modulation of your voice, can start to train your devices so they understand, what is a whisper to you? What is a comfortable level of sound? What do you want to happen in your ambient space, depending on what other things are happening? And so we're very excited with just the way in which technology has developed to allow us to have these digital assistants. And we think that, the applications are so widespread, wearable car, home, etc., that we're looking for the right partner who sees this vision and sees how this can enhance their available products and new products.
Yeah, and
And
this is one element of a feature set, some might say, but it's a material element that can really alter the experience and humanize the experience.
and we're
Sorry,
really just getting
AI
started.
turned into AI. Yeah,
We're really just getting started with the kinds of devices, probably lots of things we haven't even thought of yet,
that's
right?
right. That's right.
How the robots walking around our home are going to respond to us.
Yeah.
And
Exactly. The patent that's been granted now lasts for the next 20 years. And so, we tried our best to think about what could happen in this time span. And so that's why we made it, again, as broad as possible, covering a variety of configurations and device mechanisms, processing units, software, etc., that may not exist today. But that was also part of the fun of this. And that's, part of the joy of innovating, again, to John's point, figuring out like what big or small thing is a frustration or could be solved differently. And then beyond that, trying to think about how your invention can help propel new growth and new innovation. And so we're very excited by this patent and the possibilities and finding a partner who may be working on something fantastic where this, can be a very valuable part of what they're developing.
is this at all looking at the question of which device responds to you when you make an inquiry, or is that something different?
I think that's sort of built in existing technologies already, as what happened earlier in the call with the Hey Google. Um, I'm in a Sonos room, so I don't want to say that too loudly, but I think that's already defined, right? This is more about interacting in a personal level and having a human connection with your product, which is something that we've always believed in and always sort of produced and developed product around.
essentially making these devices and who knows what more human-like, I suppose.
That's right. Terrifying. Correct.
Yes. Another example I can think of is I used to work in the home fragrance industry, and I was at the start of these systems that developed around smart technology and the diffusion of fragrance in one's room. And the concept was essentially similar in terms of user interface. Like if you were coming home from a long day at the office and you always wanted to be welcomed with the smell of lavender so that you knew that your day was over and you could start to relax. The concept was that these devices could be programmed so that you would get a waft of lavender when you came home, right? So, it's interesting to me that this exists in the space of like fragrance, for example, but not in that space of the voice, which is really, if you think about music and conversation and the voice and audio levels are actually an important part of how we interact with our world, whether with other human beings or our devices. And so being able to comfortably set sound levels through any of your devices, in a way that kind of sets the environment you're trying to create is something that, again, we were very surprised doesn't exist, but we believe that this is the start of that becoming an important part of us creating, environments for ourselves, whether at home or on the go, that are conducive to, what we're trying to do,
I mean,
create calm
this is
space or loud party spaces.
right. And this is something we teach our children, read the room. This is almost having a device socially read the room, read the conversation. Like if Fred, you and I, if I'm yelling at you, you're probably going to yell back. I mean, that's kind of what this is. This is very, very intuitive to human behavior. So,
You yell in all caps, right? So,
right, you would write back in all caps, right? Yeah, exactly.
so where can people go for more info about all this?
Yep. Well, you can just you can send anything to either of our LinkedIns. So Seungah Jeong, Seungahjeong, or John Salzinger, John Salzinger. Or you can reach out to me at john@actu, the number 8, LLC.com.
Well, congratulations on the work here and all you both have done over the years. Seungah and John, thank you for spending time with us.
Thank you, Fred. We'll be back with
So
more.
much.